All right, ready to go. Nope, not getting any audio.
What?
Before we get started with today's event, I just wanted to quickly run through a little bit about Dynamics User Group, or as we like to call it, DUG. DUG is a community just for all of you, whether you're a user, a partner, an ISV, an implementer, a developer. DUG is definitely for you. We offer free membership. One of our core pillars is we strongly believe in free education, content sharing, and of course, community networking with everybody in the Microsoft Dynamics and Power Platform space. Our membership is free. If you are not yet a member, I encourage you to visit dynamicsusergroup.com and sign up for your free individual membership today. Some of you may have heard of us. Most likely you have heard of us because we are the host of the DynamicsCon events. So most recently, that's what we are most known for. However, we have been around since 1995. We started out as an online discussion forum that was at that point in time focused on Navision, or as the product we know as Business Central or BC or NAV today. And since then, our membership has grown to almost 40,000 individuals worldwide. We are so excited to have all of you here. DUG focuses on all of the D365 products of Business Central, Finance and Operations, and Customer Engagement, as well as Dynamics GP, and of course, the Power Platform. Your membership, again, is free, as well as many of our programs and access to that free education. And we invite everybody and super welcome for all of you, and so happy to have all of you here. Now I'll dive a little bit into each of the DUG programs. I won't go into super detail here. You can see all of the information about all of these programs by visiting dynamicsusergroup.com. But first is our conferences. As I mentioned, we are probably most known for the DynamicsCon events that we host. We host both a virtual and an in-person event. Our last virtual event was in March of 2023, and we saw 6,600 registrations from that event. So a ton of great people all over the world. All of the content for those sessions are submitted by and voted on by the community. So it's truly a true community-driven event. In addition to that, we are hosting our third DynamicsCon live event in May of 2023 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Very excited about this event as well. Again, both of these events cover all the D365, Dynamics GP, and Power Platform products. Thirdly, our Dynamics User Group forums. This is where we started. This is our history. These forums are still alive and going strong, and we've now expanded to not only NAV or Navision, but to all of the products that we cover. So I encourage you to take a peek. If you've got a quick question, there are tons of experts and MVPs in our community who moderate our discussion forums and help you find answers to your questions. In addition to this, we have our DUG Meetups, which is what you are participating in today. DUG Meetups are growing very rapidly. As of now, we have 36 groups across 8 countries, and we continue to grow at a very fast pace. If you are interested in being a leader, don't have a meetup in your area, please let me know, and I would be happy to help you get started. All of our meetups are free to attend, just like this one today, and so thank you so much again for your participation. If you're looking for more free content and resources, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We now have almost 700 videos on our YouTube channel, most of which have come from our DynamicsCon virtual events. So some very good content out there, excellent presentations by many subject matter experts in our community, lots of MVPs, Microsoft, everybody that has presented for us. You can find a video there as well. And for our virtual meetups, we do record those, and those are also hosted on our YouTube channel. And last but certainly not least is our Team Up Partner Membership Program. If you are a partner or ISV in our space, we welcome you to take a peek at this program. It is a paid membership, but the paid membership gives you exposure on an annual basis to the entire community. It's a way for you to get your products and services in front of others. So if you're an end user customer and you're looking for some solutions, this is a great place to check. You'll see many of our Team Up partners, or all of our Team Up partners, are on what we call DUG Hub or dynamicsusergroup.com. So if you're looking for a solution, this is also a really great way for you to get in front of a few and learn a little bit about what some of our partners do. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your event.
All right. Thank you, Liz, for recording that. Unfortunately, Liz could not make it today because of the DynamicsCon event that's happening on site. And I don't remember exactly where it is, but that's where she is now. Real quick introduction for myself. I'm Matt Beaumont. I lead our business applications customer success team for state and local government. I am actually filling in today for Mary Bremer, who unfortunately is sick. So we got a bit of a kind of a kludgy process here, because usually we have a few people that are kind of helping out behind the scenes, but unfortunately it's just Chris and I. So I'm going to do the best I can here. But just a quick, so that was really kind of an introduction on Dynamics User Group. But this event is brought to you specifically for DUG4GOV, which is our government community just focused on our government customers, where we're essentially sharing Dynamics 365 and Power Platform successes. Sometimes are the pains we go through and then the lessons learned. But it's really run by our customers. So our customers are presenting to our customers, which is great. And it's just a really great learning opportunity for everybody. So we meet Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday of every month. Our next one will be June 27th, and we'll actually be having Dave Bailey talk about AI in government. So I think that one will probably be a hot topic. So I should, recommend you guys all try to meet up on that one. And today we have Jennifer Bauer and Todd Carl for the, and I'm going to mess this up now. I wrote it down and I forgot to grab it, so I apologize. Hold on. It's a bit of a mouthful for me. State Public Charter School Authority for Nevada. So they're here today to present Dynamics 365 grant management. So thank you to both Jennifer and Todd, and I apologize for not having written that down in some place I could actually read it. So, but with no further ado, please take it away, Todd, Jen.
All righty, good morning. I think it's still morning for most of us. This is the State Public Charter School Authority presentation. For the rest of the presentation, you might hear us refer to SPCSA. That is the quicker and easier way, Matt, to pronounce our agency, because yes, it is a mouthful.
Sorry.
Next slide, please, Todd. So as you've probably figured out by now, I am Jennifer Bauer, Director of Finance and Operations for the State Public Charter School Authority. I have worked for the state of Nevada. In 5 days, it will be 27 years. So yes, I do have the countdown to retirement going, and my team loves to hear it. Go ahead, Todd.
My name is Todd Carl. I'm the agency's business process analyst. I'm also our information security officer and a certified public manager within the state of Nevada. My state's service is much more brief than Jen, as I have 4 years with the state, and the entire time I have been working in Dynamics. So it's really kind of a full circle moment here.
Alrighty, I'm going to start out by providing a brief agency overview for those of you who might not have any clue what the State Public Charter School Authority does here in Nevada. We are a state executive branch agency, so we are an agency, but also we do have a 9-member board. Our 9-member board pretty much exists to authorize charter schools in Nevada, provide oversight of those schools that are authorized, and then when we say serve as a model of best practices in sponsoring schools, we actually have come a long way in doing that. We are setting the stage and setting the benchmarks for authorizing high quality charter schools. Charter schools are public schools that are tuition free. They are just like a district school, although they are not run by a district. They're run by an independent governing body themselves. So we at the SPCSA are an agency that's comprised of 27 full-time employees. Our executive director is appointed by and serves at the pleasure of the Nevada Governor, Joe Lombardo. And in addition to that, we have a lot of work on our plates, as do most of you. So we have 10 contracted employees who help us out with doing our work, mostly in the area of grants, which is what our platform is used for. We are a small agency, so we only have two offices, one in Carson City and one in Las Vegas. Our mission is to, I was just going to say real quick, our mission is to authorize and ensure that our charter schools are inclusive of the population in which we serve. So our grants management system, which is what we are going to talk about this morning for use, for which we have built on the DUG Dynamics 365 user platform, we have 40 million in annual recurring state and federal education grants that we have to administer. And then because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we also have an additional 103 million that's also administered through our grants management system that's on the D365 platform. Go ahead, Todd. So our agency is twofold. We authorize charter schools and oversee those charter schools to ensure that they're serving students appropriately. But also we are a local educational agency, so we pass through that $143 million that we had just talked about. We currently have 43 charter school networks, and those networks operate 78 charter school campuses throughout the state of Nevada. So we serve approximately 60,000 students. If we were a school district, we would be the third largest school district in the state of Nevada. Go ahead, Todd. Okay, so I'm going to kick it off with our environment prior to Dynamics 365. Prior to Todd Carl coming to me about 4 years ago with this brilliant idea to implement a Dynamics 365 solution for our automated grant management system. We had nothing automated. So our grant applications, our requests for reimbursement when subawards were executed, and any amendments thereto were all manual. So it was Word documents or Excel sheets or Adobe PDF files and paper signatures scanned back into a shared server, that type of thing. So as you can imagine, there were quality control issues, there was accuracy issues, and it was highly inefficient in managing the grants that we had, because you now see that we had over $100 million to administer, and some of that did come in before we were fully implemented on D365. So the time it took for our grants and projects analysts to review and approve a reimbursement request that can be sent off to my accounting team for payment was sometimes in excess of 2 hours on average for a reimbursement request. Sometimes, depending on the size of the reimbursement request, it could take a full 8-hour shift to review just one. You now know that we have 43 charter school networks, and we have right now over 25 grants. So if you do the math, 43 times 25, you can imagine how many reimbursement requests we have to review each month, and then the time it would take for a grants and projects analyst to process that work. It also required that reimbursement requests that were submitted through our document management system required the printing out of all the supporting documentation. Sometimes that supporting documentation could take up to 500 pages of printed documentation. So also we were not reducing our carbon footprint by doing that. And then there were no spend down reporting and related functions that were easy and automated. It was a manual, time-consuming process to compile any reports that would inform the success or lack thereof of our grants administration. All righty, this is me, right, Todd?
It is.
Thank you. So now we have a fully Dynamics 365 hosted grant management system. So you'll hear us say GMS. That's our abbreviation. We like acronyms in our environment. So we have a fully functioning electronic application where schools will apply for their grants through our GMS that's on the D365 platform. We also have automation and interface through DocuSign, where we can electronically sign and execute subaward agreements. Major factor for me, since I have to sign each and every one. We have electronic submission of those reimbursement requests, so no longer do we have to print that ream of paper, and no longer do we have to review in a very manual fashion that could take upwards of 8 hours per reimbursement request. It's much more efficient. We also do all of the review inside of the CRM. That's the application, the solution inside of the D365 that we have our GMS running on. And any request of amendments to a subaward application is also done electronically through the GMS. So it's a holistic approach to administering our grants, and it's now all through our GMS on the D365 platform.
I'll go ahead and jump in at this point and give you just a brief overview of our grant management system. We actually have two very distinct sides. We have our CRM side, which our staff works internally in on the back side, and we have our customer facing portion, which is the Dynamics portals. And on the portal side of the system, the users are authenticated and they log into the system. So we initially will set up each one of our schools and their different staff members who are intending to interact with the system. We'll go ahead and set them up on the backside and get them authenticated so that they can log into the system. When they do, they reach the dashboard in which they have some important notes that we will update from time to time, keep them updated, of course, nav bar, and they begin their journey. And where they start out, where every customer starts out, is with a grant application. They have to apply to get started. So at the very beginning, they'll go ahead and start their application. This is a form, obviously, that is tied to the CRM, where all of their information gets populated and then, of course, populates back on the CRM side. They go ahead and follow some very distinct steps. Some of these functions are out of the box. Some of them have been pretty heavily modified. We have a lot of business rules and logic that's built in to, prevent or, insist that, certain information is plugged in, mandatory fields, things of that nature. So this is the grant applications. We make use of a lot of custom grids, and this is our grants overview. So once the school has gone ahead and applied for a grant and they have been awarded a grant, they can go to the grants tab. They can refer back to any of their active grants, see what kind of activity they've had, how much their total allocation was, what their amount remaining is. They can kind of keep track and do some grant management on their side. Once the grant is fully executed and a subaward agreement has been signed, the school is now eligible to submit for reimbursement requests. And again, we have a module within D365 and Dynamics portals for this function. And in doing so, this is heavily modified to fit our needs. Again, a lot of business logic, business rules, business logic that applies here. We have the ability to allow the school to submit. The school can submit their reimbursement request. On the backside, our grants and projects analyst can review that data. If any of it needs to be adjusted, maybe they're lacking some kind of documentation or anything of that nature, we can go ahead and kick it back to the schools. The schools automatically get an email saying we need a revision is required on this particular reimbursement request. They click it, they log into the portal, they make their adjustments and resubmit. So there's a lot of opportunities for a lot of bilateral or bidirectional communication through D365. Finally, part of the grants process is almost always includes amendments, and this allows the schools to go ahead after some time to go ahead and move some money around in some budget details to allow the schools to properly spend the funds that have been granted to them. So all of our amendments are actually completed through Dynamics 365 also. Which makes it kind of an all-encompassing system. So now I'm assuming that for the most part, most of you are probably familiar with Dynamics, and we won't go into too much detail on the CRM side. We use some of the entities that are out of the box and some that have been very heavily modified or created from scratch. We obviously interact with schools, so that's kind of our company, if you will. Our customer is our school, so this is our school entity and table. We also have contacts. We have a little bit different scenario at the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority, in which some of our contacts are associated with multiple schools. So we have some custom functionality on the backside to ensure that that one contact can actually interact with different activities for multiple schools. So something a little bit out of the ordinary there. We have all of our grant programs. I think Jen mentioned we have about 25 open grant programs right now. And again, for 78 campuses, there's a lot of activity that's going on an everyday basis. So being able to manage and keep track of all these activities is really super important. And obviously, you know, 3.5 years into this with Dynamics now, we feel like we're in a really good, solid spot being able to actually manage those activities. Once a grant program is completed or initially set up, we'll go ahead and set up applications connected to that grant program. So in this particular screen, you can see these are all the grant applications. We make use of a lot of custom filters and views within Dynamics, which is so powerful. If you're not familiar with it, it's one of those things that we really find that we just can't live without at this point. So we feel really fortunate that we have that capability within Dynamics. It allows us to really do a lot of analyzing of data in so many different ways. And grant applications is something that we work in every single day. Now, I will say also that the grant application specifically is an out-of-the-box entity. This is actually the incidence entity that's out of the box in the, I think Microsoft refers to it as a customer experience app now. So we've actually taken incidents and we've kind of rebranded that as grant applications. It's been heavily modified, but again, Dynamics allows us to go ahead and do that. We also have our reimbursement requests. So once a grant program is created, applications are then associated with that grant program. Once that is fully executed with the subaward agreement is fully executed with the schools, they're now entitled to go ahead and start submitting reimbursement requests. So this is another major daily function that we have and we're constantly interacting with our schools. A lot of different capabilities that we have here. Really, when we started 3.5 years ago, this was a totally out-of-the-box solution, and the developer that we were working with gave us something that was really bare bones. And over the last 3 years, we've just completely gone to the hilt with this. I mean, we've been able to customize this to really exactly meet our needs. And again, one of those things we feel so fortunate about with Dynamics is the ability to transform an out-of-the-box solution into something that really exactly meets our needs. Payment requests. So once the school submits that reimbursement request and everything is approved and all the documentation meets standards and meets all the requirements, whether it be federal or state requirements, we go ahead and enter that payment information into our payment request module. Currently, as of today, this is not fully integrated into our state payment system, although in the future, as the state systems catch up, we do feel like we're going to be able to fully integrate via some API calls and make sure that these systems stay in sync and pass data back and forth. And finally, amendments. We actually have the ability to not only have one amendment cycle, but we can create as many as we want or we need. This was a custom feature that we built into Dynamics, and it's something that really just kind of rounds out our entire grant program management from cradle to grave. One of the things that we started, and this is my last point on what we're currently doing is Power BI. So we've got 3+ years of data, so much in the system with regard to historical data, from applications to reimbursement requests to reimbursement request details, just so many different facets. Now we need to be able to extract that information out. And what we've done is we really tied into Power BI and Power BI and Dataverse, which our Dynamics 365 data is housed within, really is like a match made in heaven. It's so easy to go ahead and take that information that's within Dynamics and extract that out and get it out and present it into using Power BI. And what you see here is a report. Actually, it's a series of 3 reports that we make available not only to our internal staff, but to all of our stakeholders, which are our schools and school leaders. And it allows them to kind of follow along on to get some information about their grants. And this is by budget detail, by grant program, and by school. So they can kind of filter information in multiple different ways. But again, if you're using Dynamics, you certainly want to, probably consider tying in Power BI there to, help take a look at that information that's already in the system. Really, in my opinion, just kind of a match made in heaven there. Finally, what does our future hold with Dynamics? I mean, we've really come a long way in 3.5 years, and now where do we see going in, where are we going in the future? We believe that, within a short period of time here in the future, we're probably going to start using Power Virtual Agents. So we're going to use some chat bots and things of that nature to try and improve customer service. Allow our stakeholders to message us during regular business hours, and we can reply to them much more quickly. We're also looking into the use of AI. Of course, I think everybody is. That's a topic of conversation that everybody's having right now. Obviously, through Power Apps, Power Automate, the Power Platform, there are some tools out there that can take a scanned version of a PDF. It can scan that, use some AI modeling, and go ahead and take that information. And we hope to be able to integrate that into the portal, the Dynamics portals, to allow the schools to create their reimbursement request essentially in an assisted manner. So they upload a PDF, Dynamics portals goes ahead and scans that, takes a look, and tries to populate those reimbursement request details for the school. The school could just take a look, verify that that information is correct, and move on to the next line of data. So we hope that if we're successful with that, the schools are really going to be excited. It'll cut down the amount of time it takes them to go ahead and create those monthly reports. Also, with some AI modeling, we hope to use it to predict future behavior using historical data, taking a look at our schools, which schools are struggling, which schools are having problems with quality control. Again, we're going to implement some of that to try and assist us. Maybe we can cut the stakeholder off at the pass and see if we can assist them before they run into trouble. And finally, we're going to expand our D365 apps. We're going to bring in some additional apps besides just the CE or the CRM experience, and expand that into potentially field service and things of that nature for our subrecipient monitoring activities and new school applications. So we're just going to keep building onto Dynamics and see how far we can go with it. It's been a huge help. It's saved us an untold number of hours and money at this point, and I think we feel very fortunate that we made the decision that we did. That being said, we appreciate your suggestions about how we can improve our grant management system. We're still fairly new to Dynamics 365 with only 4 years experience here. So if any of you that are participating today have any suggestions or anything like that, we'd certainly love to hear them. And also, I guess there's been several questions, so let me pause there for a moment, and Jen and I can try and address these at this point.
Yeah, it looks like there's a question. How much did this cost? How long did it take to build? There's like 3 questions here. did you rely on in-house talent or need a vendor partner? So we'll start with the first one. Whoever wants to answer that.
I'll take that one. So we, as Todd mentioned, we are new to Dynamics 365, not only for us, Todd and me and the SPCSA in Nevada, but there are really no other state of Nevada executive branch agencies using Dynamics 365. So we're carving out our own path. And I have to give a shout out to Todd because he has come a long way in teaching himself a lot of the customization that has been done. He has really been leading the leading edge and pushing our state IT division on really pushing the functionality in Dynamics 365. So that said, we did contract with a vendor, Catapult, which has now been acquired by Quisitive. We did contract with them to provide some customization. They created the portal that Todd displayed. So they do all of the work on the portal. And then they assist for some of the complex customization on the CRM side, like flows that automate and interface with DocuSign and that type of thing. Our vendor partner does do that. So we did contract. It was not what I typically have done in my 27 years in the state, where I contract for one project and it's covered cradle to grave, as Todd mentioned. It was kind of the anchor. So you have the little ship and you have the big anchor, where we started out small and then we kept amending the contract and amending and amending. And so where we are to this day, literally, I'm executing an amendment with Quisitive to increase the contract to $478,000. So $478,000 has provided us that cradle to grave that Todd mentioned of a fully functioning portal and CRM side of the GMS.
Awesome.
Hopefully that answered Jarud or Mr. Colbert's question.
Yeah. There was a question about customized CE, which I answered, and it looks like it was definitely customized. So you had the customer service module, and did they just customize it from there? Yeah, that's what I thought.
That is correct.
Just from looking at it, I could tell that. Do you score the applications?
So we do not have very many applications that are competitive. Most of our education grants are entitlement, so there's no scoring necessary. But we do have one competitive grant application that we're managing as a result of the COVID relief funding. So we did score that application, but we did not do that through the GMS. We did it outside of the GMS and used the GMS for the submission of the applications.
Great questions. How do the grantees authenticate? It must be for the portal. Are you using the native or Azure B2C?
It's native. So it's an out-of-box solution. So literally just create a contact, which this is one of my, a couple times a week, I'll take any new requests that are coming in from our stakeholders. So create a new contact, go to the portal contact form within Dynamics and literally add them as an authenticated user. We actually give them a couple of different sets of rights. They have, we have 3 different levels of permissions within our system for the schools. They have read-only, they have edit capability, and then they have full control. So depending on what level of authentication, whatever set of permissions the user needs, everybody gets granted the authenticated user, which allows them to log into the portal. And then read-only, obviously very straightforward. Edit, it allows them to change records, and so that means applications, reimbursement requests, amendments, but they can't submit it at the very end of that particular activity. Only somebody with full control can. So we actually kind of set it up that way in a very specific manner to make sure that obviously we're getting data from authorized and authenticated users from our schools. So hope that answers that.
Yeah, sounds like it did. Do you create a unique entity for each grant program, or do all programs share a common entity or table, as we now call them?
So all of the grant programs use the same table.
Okay.
Yep.
Question from Microsoft, is project accounting still moving to project operations, and are the grant capabilities in PMA being ported to PMO? I don't know the answer to that one, Matt. I don't know if we know that or not.
Yeah, we'd have to, we can follow.
Yeah, we have to follow up on that one. Thanks. I know that there's merging project operations into the accounting side, so maybe that's where that's coming from. If you do score applications, do you automate the scoring? Well, you already said you're not scoring them. Would be a manual process. Okay. If you use a common table for all grant programs, are the grants similar in the fields that are used? I guess limitations the number of fields an entity can have. That's been expanded, I know. So there's still a limitation, but it's been expanded recently. So there shouldn't be as much of one.
Yeah, we haven't run into any kind of limitation, restrictions or anything of that nature. All of our grant programs, for the most part, use the same type of fields. We haven't had any issues there. It hasn't been any problem at all. And we've got quite a bit of different data that we put in for each one of those grant programs. So no problems within Dynamics.
So just to reiterate, it sounds like you all started with the partner and the customer service module, and then that was what your basis of adding on to it was.
Yeah, that was ground zero, was that out of the box solution. They had some real, when we took our initial delivery, it had some real subtle tweaks to the out of the box solution. And we made some changes ourselves. And then, really when it came down to getting into the code and everything else, that's where we really relied on our partner, our Microsoft partner. So that's kind of where that came in. But I'll tell you, with anybody who's not familiar with Dynamics that might be listening to this, changing forms, adding fields, all the basic stuff, it's so easy within Dynamics and, the Power Platform. And there's so much that most companies or most agencies could do on their own. I know my initial thought process when we started with Dynamics was, I'm going to have to contact the developer for everything. Well, that wasn't, in a very short period of time, it turned out that wasn't the case at all. A lot of low code, no code type stuff really applies to D365. And we've, most times now when we get a request, whether it be from our internal staff or from one of our stakeholders, one of the very first questions that we ask is, can we do this ourselves, or do we have to send it over to the developer? And, it depends on the situation. Now in our development phase in D365, a lot of times we can handle it on our own. But again, it's still great to have, that developer support where they can really take it to the next level. So I guess what I'm getting at is, if you're new to or considering D365, don't think that, every issue that you have, you're going to have to, run it up the flagpole to the developer. It's really not the case.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So, I apologize if you mentioned this and I missed it, but how big is your team? What was your competency in the beginning? And then what was your relationship in that working model with the partner? Like, where did you leverage them versus where your team kind of worked in and up in? And I guess I'm thinking about the timeline and total investment. Like, how did you spread that out to make it manageable during that time frame?
Go ahead, Jen.
I'm chuckling a little bit because it was a little backwards from the project management that I have done in the past. And it was a lot of it backwards from the implementation of customized off-the-shelf products from back in the day, since I'm a dinosaur. So our capacity when we started was 0. Todd brought this crazy idea to me about implementing Dynamics 365 that I had never heard of, because he had the foresight to imagine that several years down the road, something that we implement could actually interface with our state accounting system that's being done by an enterprise resource project plan at the statewide level. So we had no knowledge, we had no experience, we dipped our toes into that cold water. And I really have to give credit to Todd, and credit is an understatement because Todd is the team. So when you ask the size of our team, you're talking to them. We have a team of staff who are the grants projects analysts and the accounting team. But they're users, so they provide a lot of input. They provide a lot of feedback in terms of what they need to do their job. But in terms of the technical staff at this small agency, it's really Todd. And then I try to fumble around in his absence, or I try to fumble around and help him out. But otherwise, our partner entity, Catapult, now Quisitive, they've been instrumental in helping us as well in terms of that portal that we could not do ourselves, and then giving us a little bit of the feedback so that we could go and they taught us to fish. So now Todd is a fisherman extraordinaire at using D365 and the other stacked products available like Power BI. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
it's interesting, and just trying to think about what common challenges with our customers. You know, it can be a bit of a learning curve right in the beginning, right? Product takes some time. Just curious. And then Todd, what was your experience like as far as what tools did you use to kind of train on? Was it working with the partner, hands-on? Did you use some of the learn materials, or?
I did. I used a lot of the online, learning path materials available, from Microsoft. I actually took a few classes through some external sources too. I was just trying to gobble up as much information as I possibly could. A lot of it was just trial and error. We have a production environment, we have a sandbox, and we have a UAT environment. UAT and sandbox are both sandbox environments, but I was able to go into, one of those sandbox environments and just go wild, and do whatever I wanted to. So I was allowed to break things and, do a lot of stupid stuff that, I was just experimenting. I was, trying to find out how things worked, and it really didn't take too long. I really, thinking back to right around when COVID started, that's when we were really getting hot and heavy into Dynamics with the developer. And I'd say maybe 60 or 90 days. And, I was able to start, making changes to forms and, things of that nature, some simple stuff. Probably 6 months into it, I was creating workflows and, editing processes and, adding fields to different tables and things of that nature. So for me, the learning curve wasn't too extremely long. And by the time we were rolling out new modules, I was kind of keeping pace with the developers and stuff like that. So it's just a really flexible system. If you're already using the Microsoft suite of products, the Office suite of products, this just kind of adds to it and just takes it to a whole nother level. It's so integrated. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah, that's great.
Looks like we got some more questions.
Yep. Are you directly integrated with any federal agencies for reporting?
So we do not have any interface at this time to an external application. Furthermore, we are a subrecipient, so we are a pass-through entity. So we only have one grant, that one competitive grant, where we'd actually have to report anything directly to a federal agency or any FFATA reporting or any other CFR required reporting. But we don't have a direct interface to any external application at this time.
Here's a technical question. I know how you can do this. Well, I'm interested to see how you actually did this. If you know, how did you approach the created by system user field within the portal, which means if somebody creates a new record, how do you know who they were? Because it's going to show up as a system user, right? Did you all come up with some way to do that?
No, so if we're looking at like our audit history and stuff like that in Dynamics in our records, it literally says submitted by the system. However, when the school submits an application, a reimbursement request, or an amendment, they actually get to an attestation page. And at the attestation page, they're signing, there's a date, which is auto-populated. There's a user, it's the authenticated user. And then it's a checkbox with, hey, by submitting, I certify, blah, blah, blah. We do get that information.
Yeah.
On the records themselves, like the reimbursement request details or the budget details on an application, it does come in and it says system. So that's not really, that part's not controlled. However, it is tied to whoever submitted it, which we have from our attestation page. But that's a great question.
Yeah, and there's
Well,
a
and
newer
I'm going to
one.
jump in real quick, Chris, because that question is actually something I would like to tackle in the future. Todd's probably not going to be my greatest fan, but that is something I would like to figure out, whether we do it ourselves or with our partner vendors, because that's an important issue in grant submission.
Yeah, and there's ways to work around that. I'm sure you can talk to your partner about that. And I think that just by logging the fact that the user did it should be the solution there, because you know who the authenticated users are. So when you say out of the box, is it nonprofit or government accelerator for D365? I think you're just doing out of the box. There's no accelerator, right? So you did customer service out of the box.
That is correct. That's where we
Okay.
started from, customer service out of the box.
Okay. What do you use on the back end to manage the financials? Is it integrated directly to CE, to CRM, or to bring in the numbers? Or are you talking to any other systems? Sounds like
We are not.
Okay.
So this is not finance and ops. You know, I mean, we're not using, we're really just keeping track really in Dynamics. We're not balancing books. We're not doing anything like that. So this is not like, you know, your business that you're running. You're not maintaining the books here and things of that nature. What we do have is, again, remember, we have the grant program that has a value. Each application, which is a child to that grant program, has a value. Inside the application is a budget detail, which has a value. So when the schools submit a reimbursement request, they're all tied to the budget detail, which is the very base layer. That's rolled up to that application, and the application finally to the grant program. So all of that is tracked. So we know at any given time how much the grant program is worth. We know how much has been allocated to the schools or granted to the schools. We know how much has been paid to date, how much is pending, how much is in revision required, and how much is left. So all of that's tracked through Dynamics itself. But if you're referring to any kind of actual financials or anything like that, that's outside the scope of our system.
But we did take it as far as we possibly could, because our financials, of course, were one small entity of the state of Nevada, this larger government employer. And so we can't have our own integrated financial system. Of course, we have to participate with what the rest of the state of Nevada has. Unfortunately, recently, the state is making a decision to roll back because of a failed project. This is public knowledge. I'm not sharing anything confidential. Major failed project. So the state is rolling back to its COBOL-based 24-year-old application to manage our financials.
Ouch.
So we took it as far as we possibly could in the CRM. So we have accounting codes. We have information that's auto-populated into the payment request. So my accounting team can use all that data to inform the financials and copy paste, essentially, literally down to the voucher cover sheet. So it's not integrated with our financial system, but it can be used to support that documentation, and also can be a copy paste into the voucher for a payment, or it can be used to submit our drawdown requests, or it can be used to support the reports that we have to do. We just couldn't take it as far as an actual interface or integration, because we are ahead of the entire state, if you will.
Good. That's awesome. Not so much with the COBOL, but yeah, but sometimes
Right.
you gotta do, right? Someone's Naveen from Vita, that's Virginia, because I know I just talked to them recently. Did you consider building a custom model-driven app over D365 where there are other entities? Looks like you did customize that app. Features available in D365, which made the dev easier. So yeah, so you customized your model-driven app, looked like.
Heavily.
Yeah, Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, out of the box, the entities or the tables that were there, we probably only used 10 to 15% of the existing entities as it stands today. Most everything that we have is something that we built from scratch as far as the tables and entities go. So the very basic things like the schools was customer or company, whatever it was, the contacts, that's an out of the box thing. Incidents, because remember we're using the customer service out of the box app. So incidents became our applications. And other than that, everything else was new. Our grant programs were new, reimbursement requests, payment requests, amendments, budget details, all that stuff we started from scratch and tied all that together. So.
And you started this project in 2017?
No, 2019, we selected Catapult as our developer. The very first iteration of the product we took delivery of, I want to say March of 2020. So like literally right within a couple of weeks of, getting sent home with, all this COVID craziness and stuff. So it was right along there. And that actually disrupted our timeline too. I mean, as you can imagine, that, we had, nobody knew what was happening and how long we were going to be out and all that good stuff. So we were still learning how to really, really use Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint. And, it was chaos. But here we are, looking back, and we're super happy with the product and our end product. There's a lot. We're in the enhancement phase now. So we have a fully operating system. Now it's time to just enhance it as far as we can go.
Okay. Yeah. I'm just curious, did you all look at any other sort of grant management systems that have already been developed and could sit on top of Power Platform? You did? Okay. But you decided to go custom?
I don't know about on top of Power Platform, but we were looking at, during our initial evaluation, we really took a good hard look at Salesforce. The development time was astronomical compared to what we were going to get out of Dynamics and out of Catapult systems. So my biggest driver, though, back in 2019, really for Dynamics was the entire state of Nevada is using M365 or O365 at the time, And why would we not integrate a product? And in talking with, the state IT folks, they were like, I don't know that we're ever going to see a time in the future where we're not using the O365 suite of products. So I don't know. To me, it was kind of a no-brainer. It was like, why would we not? It has all the features. It can do what we need it to. We're going to need some help, but everything can be integrated together. Eventually, we'll be able to tie this into, the state accounting system. Seemed pretty basic.
Yeah. We'd love to hear those stories. It's awesome. I don't see any other questions. Anybody else got anything? Looks like there was some congratulations and thank yous for the presentation today.
Well, we appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Stephen added, we don't have any GL transactional data. We actually do, but it's not directly in the system that processes the vouchers. But those object codes, function codes, those accounting codes that I mentioned, that is the GL transactional data. It's just not the source of truth. So it reconciles to our state accounting system and our state data warehouse, but it's just not the source of truth. And if someone were to ask how much we've paid to a school, we would make sure that both systems reconcile, if that answers the question or is additional information for the comment.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I cut you off, Matt.
No, I was going to say that's great. That is good clarification there, because I it's obviously not a transactional system, Dynamics necessarily for financials, but seen this done in a lot of different ways. Integration with the financial system is common. So you have that as a little bit of a blocker, but there's other ways to then surface the information from the transactional system into Dynamics, so you can kind of get the best of both worlds. So a lot of opportunities there, I think.
Would have loved to have seen that, but unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime with the state.
Okay, so No other questions. Thank you very much, Jennifer, Todd. Awesome presentation. Really appreciate it. Anyone has any questions, let us know. Otherwise, it's a wrap. We'll see you guys.